I'm in there.
Who are we looking at?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, me first. 1, 2, 3. And again.
Shorty's on 3.
1, 2, 3.
Shorties!
A little presentation from Australian World Cup captain Mark Knowles. So I hope you're all pretty excited to hear what he has to say, and he's just going to talk a bit about his experiences and Kookaburras. So enjoy, and afterwards I'm sure you'll have a bit of a meet and greet and spend some time with hot shots. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks very much. I don't need to hold this, but apparently it's for the media, so if I look a bit weird, I am. Firstly, to the young boys, thanks for coming. I think what Hockey Australia are trying to do with building the two tournaments close together and while they're on is a great idea, and certainly for your senior guys here, it's an opportunity for them to give a bit back to you. But I think also for you to watch these guys play, to see how they prepare, to see the intensity and stuff that they play with, but also for the players from the other states. It's really important that we, as young kids, start to bridge the gap between the youth and the older guys, and certainly that's something that I'm very passionate about. I think it's something that's required, and I think it's not done enough from us guys. I think as role models, it's very important that we do give back, and certainly for the coaching clinic today, I saw the end of it. Hopefully the boys gave you a few tips. I was keeping a sneaky eye. I was hoping they did some corners or something tricky, but they weren't doing anything. And, you know, for the other states to be able to do it as well. So, yeah, really I just wanted to come along, say g'day, just so I think you boys can relate to the senior squad players a little bit more easily. I think we're always there and we're always available, but the pathways maybe aren't put in place enough. So I think it's something that I enjoy doing, is giving back to hockey. It's given me a lot over my time, and certainly it's a little bit of time for you now to talk to me, to ask me about, I suppose, how I prepare the national program with the Kookaburras, things like that. Before, I suppose, you can ask some questions, I think it's quite fitting that I'm here in Adelaide while you young boys are playing. I played my national under-13s here in Adelaide in 1997. That was a long time ago, and you boys weren't born then, but 17 years ago I played under-13s here for Queensland. So I think it's really a nice way for me to think back on my time as a young kid. And my growing up, I grew up in a country town in Rockhampton in Queensland, fairly small country town. Playing on grass. I played on grass until I was 13, till we got a turf, and I suppose my pathway through hockey was I played in my local town in Rocky, and then I was identified, I think when I was 14, into like a Queensland development program after playing at the under-13s here in Adelaide. When I was 14 and I got picked in that development kind of program of Hockey Queensland, I missed out on the under-15s. Probably, when I look back now, a little bit too weak on the ball. Didn't really concentrate on my basics enough. I think I tried to do all the flary stuff, and when you're 14, I think everyone in this room will acknowledge that we think we know everything, and parents will as well. But certainly, I think the thing that it gave me a bit of a spark to not train more or to train harder, because I was training quite hard as a 13, 14-year-old, but to concentrate a bit more when I was at training. And I think it's something that I've really prided myself on as I've gone through my career, is my work ethic and you know, my enjoyment at training and really trying to improve all the time. So that was a bit of a kick for me when I was 14. Made the Queensland team when I was 15, and then again through till under-18s, where it was the first Australian team we could make. Few South Australian boys who aren't around here anymore. But yeah, under-18s, Australian was the first team I ever made. We got to go to New Zealand. It was the first travelling team ever in under-18, so it was pretty good experience. And I think that really just spurred me on to keep making it and enjoying it and trying to get better. When I was 17, I finished year 12. I left Rockhampton, moved to Brisbane to try and, I suppose, better my hockey in the Queensland Academy of Sport. I was based in Brizzy only for about 10 months before I got invited to Perth to the national program. So it was a bit of a shock for me going from a small country town to Brisbane, to not knowing too many people only for 10 months, and then moving to Perth where I knew absolutely no one. When I moved to Perth, I was 19. I hadn't turned 19 yet. My first day in the national program or national team was the Australian Hockey League final in 2003. We played in the final. 5 minutes to go, I broke my ankle. So that was my first day living in Perth in the national squad. So that was a pretty hard time, being a young guy away from family for the first time. And I think also being in the national program, I was very unsure of, you know, playing and how they would train and did they do anything different, because I was only quite young. But I did all my rehab. I think the good thing that I had on my side was the youth and really strong enthusiasm. And Barry Dancer was the coach at the time, and he really liked that about me. So I got through all my rehab. It's about 16 weeks, just over 4 months with my broken ankle. And my first training session back, I remember I was allowed to train for the last 30 minutes on a Friday morning. Trained for 20 minutes, pretty good. I thought, oh, finally I get to train with all of these national squad players, Jamie Dwyer and Bevan George, Matthew Wells, all of these guys that I looked up to. And 5 minutes to go, we had to do one-on-ones on the sideline. Guy pulled inside, I broke my ankle again. So it was a very, very tough period, my first year in the national program in Perth, and those two big injuries, I think, in some ways were difficult because I didn't really know how to deal with injuries. Being a young guy, I hadn't had that many, but also gave me an opportunity to sit away from the program for a little bit and to think about, did I really want it, and what extra I needed to do after watching the guys train every day, and I was just sit on the exercise bike with my broken ankle. So it was very tough, but it was I think a good experience for me about learning, you know, to watch others, to see the work ethic that people put in, and I think, yeah, it certainly helped me in some ways. Yeah, just then quickly moving through my career, I was very, very lucky, very fortunate to play in the Olympics in 2004 as a 20-year-old. A lot of things went my way. Yeah, unfortunate injury to our captain, Paul Godoyne, at the time. He career-ending knee injury, so he was right half. I was playing a bit at right half behind Rob Hammond. I was playing a little bit of fullback as well, and Gooders went out and Rob went to right half, and I came in as as a bit of a swing man at the back. So I played a bit at right half, a bit at fullback, and yeah, it's I can't really put into words, I suppose, the Athens gold medal. Something that had never been done before, and probably now I only realise how important and how amazing it was after the last two Olympics, where yeah, in Beijing and London, we really, as players, we really let ourselves down. We won a bronze medal, and people say, oh, you won an Olympic bronze medal, but for us who were playing, it was a really big disappointment. And the most disappointing thing, and you'll get to learn this more and more, and the older guys in the room will understand, is that sometimes you can get beaten by a team that's better than you, and that happens, and we all accept that. But what disappoints us as players and as individuals is when we let ourselves down. And we certainly in Beijing in the semi-final, we were good enough to win. We were up 3-1 with, we were up 2-1, and then just gave the game away in the last 20 minutes to Spain. So that was disappointing. And then we did the same in London 4 years later. And I think that's, for me, the biggest learning that I can make out of hockey is I can train hard and I can do everything on the field, but there's more to it. There's more to hockey than just playing and trapping. And certainly I've moved, and our team's moved our focus a little bit to the mental side of the game. And yeah, from the Olympics in London to the World Cup, we made a huge change in being more of a team, acting as a team, being more connected, yeah, asking for more of our teammates, yeah, being a bit more open about feedback and communication. And that was certainly something that, if you look at our team and if you talk to people who are within our program, but also people who watch, they said, oh, it was amazing how you guys just played for each other. You seemed to always know where everyone was, and that's not something that just comes. We had to work really hard on that, and that's kind of my journey through my career so far. It started off as a young guy, youth and enthusiasm and never say die attitude, a bit of the, I suppose, not worrying too much, to getting to the mid stage of my career where I disappointed myself a little bit with not taking as big a gains as I could, being a little bit too comfortable. And then to the last 4 years or so where Rick, our former coach, really gave me a bit of or gave everyone, but myself as one of the leaders in the team, a real kick in the butt and said that, yeah, you think you're good and you've been to a couple of Olympics, but you can be so much better. And it wasn't until I really went away and took that on board that I thought, yeah, Rick is right, I can go to another level. And the last couple of years I've been much more happy with how I've played consistently, a lot more about team focus, and that's one of my main roles now that I play, as being the captain of the team now, which is something that I enjoy. I'm very privileged and very honoured to be the captain of the national team, but it's something that I take really seriously about trying to encourage and trying to promote the team aspect all the time. And our team certainly has grown in the last couple of years, and that's that's probably where there's questions there that you will have. As I said, I love hockey. I like being part of it. I like giving back. Certainly, my responsibilities and my job is to be a role model for the young guys, especially, but also for the older guys in the room. They need to see senior players acting and behaving the right way, and I certainly try and do that when I'm playing. So. I'll leave it there. As I said, I love hockey. I could talk for hours, and I think it's time that you get a chance to know a little bit about me. There might be nothing, there might be something, there might be things from the parents. Doesn't have to go too long, but certainly it's an opportunity for me to become a little bit more of a mate rather than just someone you see on TV. That's how I see it. So thank you very much, and yeah, if there's anything else, let us know. Same ankle, and you would not believe it was the same guy. In the AHL final, I stood on his stick and broke my ankle, pretty similar to what I did last year in the AHL final. But yeah, I stood on his stick, and then it was Richard Gibson, striker, and in the one-on-ones, 5 minutes to go at training, he pulled inside and I kind of went one way and it was the same ankle again. Yeah, it's terrible. And certainly, as most of you know, especially the older guys will know, but the younger guys, my legs aren't the strongest part of my body. So yeah, it didn't take much to snap the old leg. Boys?
You said you guys kind of connected as a team
Yep.
in the last few years. How did you guys get that together? Just
Very.
You said it took a fair while to get together. How did you guys do it?
Oh, it's a really good question about how we became more connected. It was really a tough thing, and especially for guys. It's quite hard for us to talk about our feelings and to open up, and it was something that we had to really fight for. And at the start, it became something that was pushed upon us. So we had a group, 3 psychologists who basically took over. And they said, this is where we've let ourselves down. Yeah, you guys can hidden trap, but what happens when something goes wrong? You blame me, I blame him, he blames him, and he blames the coach. And that was a bit of the cycle we were in. And they really got into us about that we need to be more open and that it was going to be difficult. It was a real challenge for us to, I think, talk about our feelings, but also talk and listen. I think that's sometimes a hard thing. It's easy to give advice all the time, but it was hard for us to listen. And what we really focused on was trying to get a small group who were really buying into the process and who felt that it was going to be really needed. We tried to get that group just to become bigger and bigger, and that collective group slowly grew, and it started to take over the team a little bit. And it's very hard to get everyone at once to buy into a process, but over 2 years since the London time, it went that the group started off at 6 and it went to 7, and then 1 or 2 guys start doing a little bit extra, or 1 or 2 guys start talking a bit more open, and then it seems all right. Then it became 10 and 12, and more people thought it was okay. So it went like that for about a year, and that included the coaching staff as well. So it was quite, we had to talk about, the coaches in front of them. They had to talk about us, and it wasn't slagging people off. It was like constructive criticism, And that group just slowly gotten bigger, and about a year, 6 months, I suppose, to a year later, we got to the stage around the end of last year, and the process dropped back a little bit from them telling us what to do all the time to the players leading it. So we led meetings, like we watched the World Cup final from 2006 and we watched the Olympic semi-final from 2012, and it was the first time that we felt comfortable speaking to people. Like the guys would say to me, "Knowlesy, what are you doing?" And I was sitting there watching the video and I'm like, what am I doing? And I didn't know, you know, we have the best 4 defenders in the world, and it's 20 minutes to go in the Olympic semi-final and we start smashing it down the other end. It looked like there was 20 seconds to go, and you look around, there's a guy there, there's a guy there, and there's a guy there, and they're like running with their stick above their shoulder, kind of like, "Oh yeah, pass it to me," but not really, you know. So we just got rid of it, and Germany got a bit of flow on, and it was really good for us to talk about that. And it wasn't the young guys, it wasn't mid-range guys, it was everyone. And I think people then started to get more comfortable about, 1, making mistakes, because we all do it, and 2, talking about it. And that group just really got bigger, and then it moved off field a little bit as well, with just different recovery procedures and guys just doing it, not because, "Oh, do I have to?" or "Oh, are you going to do it?" It was just, let's do it because it's the team thing. And it was just, it was just a really amazing feeling, and something that, I think about just playing hockey all the time, but it's by far the biggest change I've ever felt part of in a national team, and the results were what they were, and it was impressive, obviously, for people to watch and what people say about our team. That's amazing to hear, but it's also great to play in. Yep.
How many more years do you reckon you got left in you?
A couple more, hopefully till Rio. That's my goal. Yeah, I think at the moment I still enjoy it. I think I'm still good enough, and I want to achieve the Olympics. I'm still. Athens was a bit of a. It was amazing. Like, I'm not saying that I wasn't part of it, but I wasn't really part of it. I didn't do the 4-year cycle. I didn't lose the World Cup in 2002 like the other guys did. I didn't have some of those heartbreaks all the way through to feel how good it felt. Kind of just jumped in, and now I've felt how bad it feels to lose. I kind of want to, now we're coming to a stage where I think that we can really kick on and do well. So Rio's definitely the goal. For me, I've got a young fella, as you know, 3-year-old. I've got another one coming in November in a couple of weeks. So life moves on. And everybody's different as well. That's a hard thing. I think for people like Wellesley, Bev and George, they retired when they were 31, 32, because they lost the love of training, of going away, of competing, of doing all the fitness for 12 months of the year. At the moment, I still have that. Jamie, he's 35 and he still loves training, so I don't know. But my goal is Rio, and then, I'm happy for you to come in and take over. Yes. Yep. Yep, definitely. And I think I've heard this question asked before, and my immediate response, without even thinking of a response, is, who's the best player ever to play hockey? Probably. Yeah, Jamie Dwyer. He's that tall. But you've got to use all of your attributes. For me, I'm not a strong guy, so I'm not going to be able to muscle people out of contests playing at the back. But my strengths are reading the game, being in the right position, hopefully at the right time, and my outletting skills. We have to play to our strengths, and I think you can't always look at what everyone else is doing. I think that's one of the best things Jamie would ever say. He says, I used to always get muscled around, but then I would turn these big guys, it was quick, and it's like Jake Wetton now. Like nobody wants to mark Wetty because he's like a little kid, he's just had a bag too many of lollies, and he's in your back, and he's running, and he's over there, and then he's over there. So it's, I I think just use your attributes. Don't always think about what everyone else is doing. Obviously, there's always pathways, you know. You can get stronger, you can get fitter, but I think certainly size isn't everything, and that was something that I watched as I was growing up. The biggest guys when I was playing aren't always playing now. The smallest guys, you know, Jamie and those guys have taken hockey. You know, you think of Ed, Orch, you know, Jamie, these type of guys, Matthew Swan, you know, not everyone's big boys, but then you look at the big boys, you know, Des Abbott, Jeremy Haywood, Aaron Zalewski, some of those big guys, you know, they're strong on the ball, they're hard to get off. So everyone, I think, can play their role in the team. If we were all the same, we'd be no good. Yep.
Was that overhead you did to guys, is that something you practiced before?
I wish. The World Cup goal was, yeah, it was awesome. I'll tell you the story quickly about how it happened. Well, first of all, the overhead into the circle for the goal, that's not something we practice. I think what we do practice is continual practice at overheads. So Kieran knows that 9 times out of 10, hopefully I'm going to be able to throw an overhead 50 metres. If that was Swanee on the ball or someone like that, he's going to come back 10 metres. If that's Jeremy Haywood, he can go forward 10 metres. So I think the thing that we practice is knowing our teammates. So the two things for me that worked with that goal were that Kizza knew that I could get the ball into the circle. And the second thing is he's a really, really smart forward. Another guy who I rate really highly in using his ability to his strengths. He's not a guy who's going to run the length of the field dribbling the ball, but he's a guy who works his absolute butt off. If you look at his work rate in a match, his high intensity running, his GPS meters, it's phenomenal how much hard work he does. And he's a guy who reads the game really well, so that was good. But how it happened was the day before we were playing Spain. We were 3-0 up at half-time against Spain, second game of the World Cup. We were thinking this is pretty awesome. Spain was a big game. We were pretty nervous leading into it. About 25 seconds to go, they just cleared the ball way down to the end, and I think Jezza got it out at left half. He passed it across to me. I hit it out to Devo. We passed it into Zalewski, passed it back to me. I passed it over to someone else. Hooter went. We jogged off, high-fiving, knuckles, everything, drinking. This is beautiful. We ran into the change room, and for 10 minutes, Rick absolutely blasted us about why aren't we trying to score a goal? What happens if you turn the ball over in there, circle up the other end? They can't get it down there in 5 seconds. Why aren't we trying to score a goal? We've got the ball on halfway. We're hitting it around to each other, and he was going crazy. And we were like, oh, we're winning against Spain, you know, so we were like, head down. The next day against England, that ball came straight out to me, and all I could think, I looked up at the clock and I went 10 seconds, oh, I don't want to get caught with the ball because Rick will blast me at half time. So all I thought was just get into the circle, and all I was hoping for, to be honest, was I knew that I could throw it above height, and now with the stick above the head rule, the ball can fly anywhere. It can go there, it can hit someone's body. So all I was hoping was someone put their stick above their head and we got a corner. And then it happened like that, and it was awesome how it happened, especially against England, one of our big rivals, but definitely not something that was a set play. And Rick really liked it. Rick started me next game, yeah, so it was good. Anything else? Oh, I think certainly I don't think I ended up being really strong over the ball, but I think I paid more attention to my basics, and even now when I go forward, my preparation is all about my trapping, and I know that if I trap every ball, then I don't have to go chase it, which means I don't have to get in a contest with an attacker. I think certainly for me, hitting and trapping, pushing and trapping is an important skill. It's boring. That's the problem for you young boys, is it's boring to practice hitting and trapping. But if you watch the absolute best players in the world, they make the least amount of mistakes on trapping and hitting. I think it's a really important thing that I just kind of, I wouldn't say that all I did was pushing or trapping, but I paid more attention to it. And I was very lucky, as I said, I grew up in a country town. We had grass till I was 13, but one turf. You could go down to the turf whenever you liked. My family had a tennis court on our property, so I could go down and play on the turf tennis court. And I think I just worked on those things more than I'm coaching the kids, especially in this age group, the 13 to 17s, I say to them, it's amazing to be able to hit a tomahawk in the top corner. It's amazing to be able to chip a goalkeeper, but you can't do that if the ball's not on your stick. And it's a really important thing that you have to practice, and certainly my game now, in the lead up to the World Cup, all I thought was if I'm trapping really well, I'm going to play well. And I just worked on my trapping all the time after every session. All the defenders have to, but something that I just felt that when I'm a good trapper, when I've got the ball on my stick, then I can do the overheads, and then I can hit the tommers, then I can do the sliders, then I can go into midfield. But if I don't have the ball, I can't do it. And I think I just worked on it. I took more pride, I suppose, in my trapping, is what I would say to the younger boys.
How important is it for these young guys to have mentor older players to coach them through, I suppose, not only the psychological things you said is probably
Yep.
the majority of the game, but the skills and all that, how important is a mentor player? And you yourself, did you have a mentor?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you look up to people. I think how it's changed, as you would know, is that 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't every game on YouTube. There wasn't a video of every single play you can watch. I wasn't lucky enough to have that, and I think that's one of the reasons why Jamie and myself started our coaching business, because we grew up in Rockhampton, and we were playing there until we were 17 years old, and we never met an Australian player. And I just think that that's ridiculous that in a country town or wherever we can't meet some of our role models and people that we're trying to aspire to be. So that's something that we wanted to do, was to give a bit back, and we do it because we had income from Europe and India and those things. But certainly now for you boys, I think you definitely need to look up to people more, and I think that's why this is such a good tournament. You can watch people all the time about how they receive, about where they run, about their movement off the ball. That's one of the biggest differences between the younger group, kids, and the guys, is the movement off the ball. So whenever we pass, we move. Whenever some of the young boys pass, they stand still, and I think they're the little things that you can watch. But I would also say, just get involved in hockey. I still watch the YouTube videos of goals in the AHL, for example, in Europe, and you learn things from different people. For example, shootouts. I don't take shootouts, I like watching from halfway, but I still like watching shootouts to watch the skills. Penalty strokes, don't watch my last two, but watch any from before that. Yeah, so I think there's certainly ways that the younger group need to look up to the older group, and there's so many different ways now that we can do it, and I think you're so lucky with, yeah, the internet plays an amazing part, but also hopefully we're playing more games in Australia, you know, more times to see National League, more times to see the Kookaburras, to watch the Hockey-roos. There's a lot of things you can learn, and you might only see one or two different things, but yeah, those things stick with you. Yep.
Do you reckon hockey can become a really big league, like, I don't know, something like AHL or the A-League or something in Australia?
I really hope so. If it does, you're in the age group that are going to benefit. I think that's a really big thing that we need to build for. It's hard to know with hockey because so much is about TV. But for example, you know, it only takes one person, like South Sydney Rabbitohs won their NRL league. Did anyone watch that last night? You probably. But Russell Crowe, you know, he transformed South Sydney. Just one person changed the game for South Sydney. And that's what it might take for hockey. We don't know. Someone might suddenly win the lotto, hundreds of millions of dollars, and hopefully pump a bit back into the sport. But everything, you know, there's platforms, so it's got to get on TV, because no one wants to sponsor anyone if people can't see it. So it's got to get on TV. We've got to play more games in Australia, which is hard because we're so far away from the world and we have so little funding to offer teams to come here, but we have to somehow. We have to play a better Australian Hockey League. This is one of my pet hates of Hockey Australia, is this league we have 50, 80, 100 of the best players in the world, and we have a 6-day competition, which I know it's good to play in, and the guys will hopefully agree with me, but it's not good enough for our sport. We need to make a better Australian Hockey League. And a little bit of influence comes from outside as well. For example, my feeling is things could go up in the next few years now with India. India qualified. They're the first team to qualify for the Rio Olympics. They qualified a couple of days ago, winning the Asian Cup. So as soon as India are any good again, they'll pump money in. I play in the Hockey India League, which is a good start. For people who don't know, the Hockey India League's like the cricket, the IPL. So there's a budget. You've got to buy 15 Indian players and 10 international players per team. So there's 6 teams. The TV rights for that, Star Sports paid $250 million for 10 years for the rights of hockey. So there is money there and there is opportunities, but we have to use it and be exposed to that better. So if India becomes big again and their league progresses forward, I think something that could work. I think something that could work is a league that's, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, India, Malaysia, or something like that, to try and get a bit more of a league down this side of the world to try and attract players, but also to attract TV. So like an Asian Champions League or something like that could work. Yeah, so it's a hard one. I really hope so, because as I said, you will be the ones that benefit from it, and that's why we need to keep doing well in development, and that's why our national team needs to keep doing well, because in the end, if you're coming 6th or 7th or 8th, no one will want us. But if we're winning all the time, you're continually putting yourself in front of the cameras, and that's all we can do at the moment. That's all we can do with developing you guys, because maybe you're not the next crop, but there's a crop just above you and then you guys, and if we stay good at the top, if the next crop are good and then you guys are really developing, then our game's in a good way. Yep. I think we are progressing slowly, definitely slowly, but you know, it's changing a little bit with Europe as well. Before 2000, so that's 14 years ago, no one played in Europe. And now we have 5, 6, 7 guys play every year in Europe. There wasn't a Hockey India League. Now we have 21 or 23 Aussies from the national squad of 30 playing the Hockey India League. You know, it's compulsory for us to play here in the National League, which is the best rule they have, because it wouldn't be a league if everybody didn't have to come back. So I think that's a good rule. So I think we are progressing, but I'm not sure how quick. I'd like it to be a lot quicker. But we're working in a pretty tight Australian sports market. You know, if you look at all the sports, yeah, it's a tough market. So I'm not sure. Yes. Yeah, it's a really good question. I think for me it was just about that more opportunities will always come. If I broke my ankle twice in 2 years, my career might be over. But I think when you're young, you certainly have more time. You have time on your side. I think for me it was also a bit of a break. I played in the under 12s, 13s, 15s, 17s, 18s, 21s, National League. I played for 10, 12 years straight. In 2002, I played at the national titles here. I played at the National League. We played all through February, March. We went to the finals week in Melbourne, played the whole finals week in Melbourne, flew straight from the final on Sunday night to here. We lost the final to WA, flew here, played under 18s, went home for 3 weeks, and then went to the 21s in Darwin. And I just played non-stop, and maybe that was the reason why I got injured. But I also used it as a real freshen up period, a time for me to evaluate a bit more about if I really wanted to do it, you know, to spend more time with my friends and my family. And I think the biggest thing is you're always going to get chances. I think the two things I would say is when you're injured, the 2 most important things are rehab. You got to do it properly. If you don't do rehab, whether it's a hamstring, calf, ankle, knee, anything, you're going to have problems. So do your rehab properly, and your diet. They are 2 things that I really changed when I was injured. And we eat a lot. When we're not athletes, we have to rein that in a little bit. So for everyone that, you know, not so much maybe when you're 13, but as you progress, you really have to be careful of your diet, because when you come back from an injury, you don't want it to take you a long time to get back to your best. And that's why now I've had my foot in the boot for 6 weeks, but I have to go to the gym every day on the stupid grinder, so that I'm still in reasonable shape when I get back in a couple of weeks. So there are a few things that I would say is stick to your rehab and be careful of your diet.
So Martin went over time. And
Sorry.
I'm sure we could. No, I'm saying we could all sit here and listen to you all day. I'm sure you've got a lot of things to do. Can we all get a round of applause for Mark? I'm sure
I've also got my Commonwealth Games gold medal and the World Cup gold medal if anyone would like to have a look. And the World Cup trophy is there. It's beautiful and get a photo of it. We put one of the bits on it. Yeah, it wasn't us. It fell over on the stand. Yeah, so I think this one here is the one that we might have done if anybody asked. It was already there.